Today on the B5 we're going to degrease the engine bay. Now, I'm not going to say this is the best or the only way to do it, but this is the way that I do it. Just a bit of a warning there for those comments that I know are going to be coming. So you can see it's quite grubby in there. There is an oil leak somewhere around the back of the cam cover gasket. I'm assuming it's either half moon seal or the cam cover gasket or something around there, but the easiest way to find out exactly where it is, clean everything down, start it up and run it for a little bit and see where fresh oil has developed. Okay, so I'm going to, you can see all of this, schmutz that's all in there, so I'm going to give that a good clean. Just generally it's, dusty and dirty. It's good to just give it a quick clean and see where we are to start getting this thing roadworthy. So, a couple of things that you'll need. You will need a pressure cleaner. I have a Karcher there. You'll need some degreaser. That's just a water-based sort of soapy degreaser, general purpose sort of cleaner. And you'll need the engine to be warm. Doesn't have to be running, but you can have it running if you so wish. Just to get things warm and all of that, so that oil becomes, a little bit more, I would say, viscous. That's not the right word. Anyway, the idea is to make sure that the oil is warm, the grease is warm and things like that, because when you're putting the water on there, a little bit of hot soapy water does wonders versus cold soapy water. Doesn't really do much. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll get cracking.
I just follow your trail and I'm losing your mind and I'm losing your head. Let me escape from this love, cause I'm a prisoner. I just want to look my way and never back to you. I'm not above.
So any hard to reach places, you'll need a little brush like this just to agitate them, or whatever you've got, a toothbrush or something like that, and you can really get into these little intricate areas just to give them a little bit of agitation, around all of this sort of stuff that you probably won't be able to easily access. Alright, so simple things like that. Don't really be too worried about all of this stuff. It is all sealed with gaskets, all of the connectors and everything like that. It's very water resistant. It's not necessarily waterproof like in a four-wheel drive or like an off-road commercial vehicle or something like that, but a little bit of water with the high pressure, it's not flooding it with water necessarily. It's only sort of using the pressure to physically clean the dirt away. So yeah, don't be too concerned about that.
Let me escape from this love, cause I'm a prisoner. I just want to look my way and never back to you. I'm not above. Let me be myself. I'm not above. Let me be myself. Let me be myself.
There we have a much cleaner engine bay, and now we'll be able to poke around in there without getting crazy dirty, and at least we'll be able to see where any fresh leaks may appear. Touch wood, there hasn't been anything going on over there, so it might have been a bit of old oil or something like that that was spilt over there. So yeah, we'll see how we go now. So you might have heard me talk before about a misfire on one of my videos. It happened when I was driving it back from where we bought it, New South Wales. So for those of you that don't know, New South Wales and Queensland, it was about 250, 300 kilometres, a bit of a journey that I took when I bought it. So it drove fine, coincidentally, when I was looking at it with the guy that was selling it, of course. And on the way home I noticed that it developed a bit of a misfire under full load conditions. So basically when it crept up from vacuum to boost, it started to misfire. Now I've got my OBD11. It didn't actually show anything in the fault codes, so there's no misfire count, there's nothing like that, but it misfires right from about 1800, 2000 or so when it's starting to make boost, right the way through, and it will not resolve. It'll sort of bup, and then just keep cutting out. So no check engine lights, no fault codes, so I'm going to go through and do some basic troubleshooting. I've got a handful of coil packs that I bought. It could be these things, the ignition control modules. It could be something simple like a map sensor or an airflow meter. So we're just going to go through and do a couple of general checks. First things first is cleaning the MAF sensor. So it has a tamper-proof screw. It's hard to see, but it's like a Torx bit with a little security piece in there. So if you have one of these sets, it'll come in handy a lot with European cars. So you want to unscrew the two screws. You don't necessarily need to disconnect it. Pop it out, and you can see the little filaments in there. So that's what you want to clean, and you want to clean that with a contact board cleaner, circuit board cleaner, or a very high purity isopropyl alcohol, in which case I have 100% IPA right here. So I'm going to go through and clean it. So you've got a couple of different wires and sensors. You want to clean all of them. So some of them do more than others. Some of them are just a temperature. Some of them are actually the air fuel mixture themselves. So give it a generous amount of IPA to saturate the actual terminals and just let that naturally dry. Because it's alcohol, it'll only take about a minute or so to fully dry. There's a bit of wind going on out here, I'm sure you can hear in the microphone, so that won't take very long, and then we'll pop him back in. But before we do that, we'll go around and just generally check all the wiring and things. Now that was part of the reason why I wanted to clean the engine bay, so we could start with a nice clean slate and see exactly what's going on. Alright, so this is the mass airflow meter, mass airflow sensor, airflow meter, MAF sensor, whatever you want to call it. You can see there's a couple of different sensor parts to it. Okay, so you want to make sure that you've cleaned all of them, rinsed them with the IPA as much as you can. You can see there's another way to get in there from there and there. So you want to make sure that's nice and dry. As I said before, these are some little security bolts that you'll need. So there's a T20H, H for hole, and then we will just pop him back in now that it's nice and dry. Screw him up. That O-ring, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good, nice and soft still, that's what you want. Okay, we will pop him back in there and screw him up into that MAF housing. Don't be an idiot, it's only plastic, don't over tighten it. That's a big fat no, it was not the airflow meter. Now I've done a visual inspection of all of the boost hoses. It's a little bit more involved to do a proper thorough inspection, but I'm going to have to sort of do that at the same time as the coil packs, because they're kind of like you need to take all of that air intake and bits and pieces off anyway. So let's get to it. How super clean does that engine bay look? So I'm going to replace spark plugs now. All of that stuff on the top end needs to come off. Look at that tan line. Whoa. Yeah, all of this intercooler, sorry, not the intercooler piping, the charge pipe that you'd call that, the air intake pipe, hoses, all this stuff sort of needs to just be moved out of the way and to get to the coil packs and spark plugs on each side. So we're going to get into it. Pretty sure the spark plugs needed changing. They are. So I've only pulled one spark plug out, but I'm fairly confident that is the problem. Have a look at that electrode, or lack thereof. It is almost non-existent. That's what it's supposed to look like. Now have a look at that. That is nuts. That is nuts. Now all that's left to do is put it back together. I still can't believe these plugs. They are stuffed. I'm surprised that the thing was running at all. I mean, it was making boost and running just fine when I test drove it. It was only on the way back, the long drive back up to Brisbane, and it started misfiring under boost, and I thought, oh, here we go, B5, yay, let's get this, you know. So, but yeah, it turns out just a simple spark plug. That's all it was. That's all it should have just started there, but hey, we cleaned the airflow meter and checked all the boost pipes and things like that anyway, so good to know. Coils are fine. They're actually really good. All the rubber around the coils are really nice and fresh and still soft. The coils themselves are yeah, they're I don't know if they're the original ones, but they're genuine ones that are in really good condition. There's no like white like electric marks around them. That's not the right term, but yeah, so look, it's actually turned out to be really good mechanically. I've had a good dig around in there. There's not a lot of leaking or anything like that. There's just this one small tiny leak that it hasn't really even come back again, so I don't know if it was maybe like some spilt oil or something like that, you know, touching something hot and getting that oily burning smell after running. But after going around the block and getting it warm and everything like that, it hasn't come back, so I might have got lucky. So yeah, we'll continue on with a couple of other things and get this thing ready to hit the streets.